Hello everyone, this is the Lord's Legion yet again, and today we're going to talk about the top 10 comic book villains worthy for a spin-off film. Now before we get started, I just want to point out that there will be no Harley Quinn or the Joker, because let's face it, the Suicide Squad is essentially their own film at this point. Number 2, Magneto will not be on the list because essentially the First Class is essentially his own film. And lastly, there will not be Loki on this list either, because at this point Loki will almost definitely gonna get a film sooner or later. It's just a matter of when Marvel decides to do it. Now without further ado, I'm gonna discuss to you guys these 10 villains that need a comic book film sooner rather than later, and the sooner the better. Taskmaster is one of these villains that is lately getting quite a bit of push coming from Marvel, and I honestly can see why, because Taskmaster is a rather interesting villain, and not only that, he started off as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, which will be a brilliant basis for a film story arc about a villain known as Tony Masters, who started up as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but then eventually becomes bored and starts to go rogue and wanting to get a lot of money. Now Taskmaster is an interesting villain because not only can he copy every moves of his fighters, but also the fact that he is very smart and he knows S.H.I.E.L.D's dark secrets and whatnot. So you could literally squeeze him in the future for Hydra, in some case for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or even make his own film that he actually deserves, and it'll be really good to see on the big screen in my eyes. Yes, I know Bane has been in The Dark Knight Rises and he was done relatively well despite the bullshit twist at the end, but let's be honest, Bane deserves a second chance, and in this second chance he should be like how he was in the comics, being a little kid that was in prison and then he was raised to become one of the greatest warriors to actually break the bat. Now his origin story is very worthy enough to be a film of its own, and seeing Bane becoming what he is now is very fascinating in my eyes. And Bane to me is probably one of, if not the only Batman villains outside of maybe Joker and Harley Quinn that could really live up to his name and have his own standalone film. Like, I can think of Mr. Freeze as well, but honestly he's more of a side character to me, but Bane really deserves a shot. I have mentioned in the past that I'm not as familiar with DC characters as I am with Marvel. However, I know that Black Adam is a relatively interesting character. I'm not going to deny I don't know that much about him, but from what I know is that he is an anti-hero that was corrupt by powers from Shazam, and then ultimately became crazy and wanting to kind of become like a Magneto-esque type of character that kind of wants to rule the world for his greater good. And honestly, seeing the evolution of his insanity really can fit quite well to the actual film of his own, and it would be really interesting to see his point of view on everything, and especially how he fused Shazam himself as well as the wizard that gave him his powers. It'll be very interesting to watch, and it will probably make me all the more fascinated within the character himself. Ronan is quite possibly the most obscure pick for this list, but please hear me out. To be honest, although Ronan was underused in Guardians of the Galaxy, I do reckon that he was handled rather well and he was surprisingly accurate to the comics, with the exception of him being crazier and being a lot more like an intergalactic Hitler. And to me that was really good, and I really wanted to know more about him. And to be honest, seeing an origin story about his road to insanity and how he wants to have everything in control, that is a really good idea for a villain story. To be honest, I think of all the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I reckon Ronan is probably one of the best choices to have his own standalone film. And he certainly does deserve another shot, and to prove the fans wrong. The one villain that has inspired Thanos, and yet he hasn't even got his own film yet, or at the very least hasn't even been featured? That is so criminal, and Darkseid has so much potential. For starters, Darkseid has a relatively decent backstory, and the possibilities is just there. Like, you could just literally start his origin story, or at the very least have him conquering Apocalypse. Superman has a relatively decent rogues gallery, and if anything, Darkseid deserves the treatment more than pretty much anyone else, to be honest. Like, Brainiac is better off as a villain than his own standalone character, and as for Lex Luthor, I personally don't find him that much appealing, but Darkseid, he has quite a bit of potential, and honestly, I reckon Darkseid could really hold his own. Sinestro has always been a fascinating character, and also he has quite a bit of potential for his own spin-off film, especially with the potential of so many stories with him. Like, you could start with his homeland, or maybe even him joining the ranks of the Green Lantern Corps, and maybe even him teaching Hal Jordan, and possibly even him getting the yellow ring in the first place. Sinestro has always been a fan favourite amongst the DC fan base, and it's really easy to see why. Sinestro is a sympathetic character, and there's always a sign of redemption for him, which makes the character all the more appealing, especially that he's an anti-Green Lantern and he's also a shadow of his former self, which is very interesting to see happen in his own film sooner rather than later. Norman Osborn. There are so many potential stories you can go with his own film. For starters, you could make him make his uprising towards Oscorp, you could literally make a story about his dilemma with the Green Goblin, or you could literally make a storyline about him becoming the Iron Patriot. Not only that, you could literally make a story about Norman Osborn as the Iron Patriot, assembling the Dark Avengers or the Cabal, and even make a story about him invading Asgard. No matter which way you go with this, it'll be great for Norman Osborn to have his own film, and to be honest, in my eyes, he's probably the perfect villain for a Phase 4 for films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and what better way than introduce him into his own spin-off film. If you are familiar to this channel, then you must know how much I absolutely love Doctor Doom and his character. Like, literally, I would die to watch a standalone film for Doctor Doom. Like, his origin story is just so perfect and beautiful to see on the big screen. And what worries me is the fact that Fox has fucked him up more times than I can count. So at the right hands, like maybe if Fox redeems or if Marvel does it again, then if they do Doctor Doom and reintroduce him to the audience, they should just do what the comics did. Give him the origin story that is accurate and beautiful. Then if that happens, then I'm pretty sure every last fan who loves Doctor Doom as well as I do would be very happy to see Doctor Doom done justice like how he deserves. Deathstroke has been getting such a push by DC these days. So it's kinda interesting how he has yet to be introduced into an actual film. Now, rumours has it that he's going to be in the Suicide Squad, but honestly I think it'll be a lot better if we followed his origin story in his own standalone film, because like Doctor Doom, Deathstroke has quite a basic yet beautiful backstory to him, and it's very interesting and intriguing to me. So if we just had like what the comics had and put it onto the big screen like accurately, then I'm pretty sure people will understand Deathstroke a lot more, and people will probably find him a lot more badass. And you don't even have to use the origin story, you can just use him as like the basis of a Terminator and see how a bounty hunter / assassin would think and what have you. Venom, like that's all I need to say. Venom, like literally there's so much potential for him. Like the possibilities are so endless. You could go for Eddie Brock's origin to him fighting Carnage, and hell, you don't even need Eddie Brock. You could just go for Matt Gardner, or even Flash Thompson, or even just the symbiote in general. There's so many possibilities. It's so shocking how they have yet to do a Venom film. And what sickens me most is that we have to wait even longer for it to happen now that Spider-Man's getting rebooted again. Like, Venom has been due for so long, and the Venom fans like myself have been waiting for ages. and I think we really need a Venom done right. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on my next video. Take care.